You can increase your productivity by 5 or 10 times overnight by putting the 3 methods into action that I'm going to give you in my free course. So go download it right now by clicking the link just below here. I've labeled this video the first rule of self-discipline because there's something we need to understand about who we are before we can start working on our self-discipline. Because just think about it, scientists basically agree on the fact that for 200,000 years we have had the same DNA as we have now. And for the majority of that time, like 99%, even more, we have been cavemen and cavewomen, living in nature, being completely dependent on our surroundings. Right? No running water, no computers, no internet, no heat in the houses. We could build a campfire and a little bit of a shelter, right? But basically, we're completely dependent on our surroundings. And just imagine being in that situation. You don't need self-discipline because everything is now and everything is inner urges. Why are you going hunting? Because I'm hungry, right? Why are you taking care of your kids? Because you have that inner urge to take care of them. It's a body thing. It's a natural instinct thing. So everything, and why are you getting up in the morning? Because the sun is up, because I slept enough, right? Why are you going to bed at night early? Because there's no light anymore. I can't see anything, right? So I might as well go to bed. These days we got, artificial lighting, we got sugary sweets and stuff we can eat that isn't really good for us. Didn't exist back then. If you found an apple tree suddenly, right, you could eat all the apples you possibly could and then that's cool. Or if you were getting fat during the summer when there was a lot of food available, that was cool because then you had that extra food on your body that you could eat when there wasn't food available during the winter, and it would keep you warm as well. So perfect, I wouldn't, prefer to live back then. But it's like every single time that human beings have improved their living condition, they have also put a new responsibility on themselves to live with that comfortable new thing, right? The second you have invented the car, you don't have to move very much. But shouldn't you move very much? The second you have invented the smartphone, you don't have to, or just the phone, you don't have to go to people and see them face to face to communicate with them. But should you not see people face to face? So there's a new thing that you have to think about, that you have to decide upon every single time we make life more comfortable and more secure. And in these days, everything is artificial. Everything is man-made. You're in a reality where very few things are actually dependent on nature. Or everything is, basically, right? But you have to make those choices all the time. What should I eat? Once upon a time, you could eat an apple from a tree, and it was sweet and good, and you were happy, and it was okay. Now, what's sweet and good is not good for you, because we created weird foods that really hurt our body, but taste amazing. Like Coca-Cola, right? Tastes like, this must be good for me. And the body really thinks so. That's why it tastes so good, right? But that's because we are messing with the body, with the body system of how to evaluate what is good and what is not good for you. Right? What is salty and fatty really tastes good as well, and that was good for you once. But the environment, nature, was kind of regulating how much of that you could get a hold on and how much you could take in. These days, it doesn't. What's salty and fatty and sugary is the cheapest thing ever, right? So you can have so you have to decide all the time. You have to work against your own body's inclination to go for the sweet stuff. Go for the comfort. Just lay down. You don't have to move anymore, right? But you should move all the time in order for you to be happy and enthusiastic and passionate if your body's just full of sugar, passive, like it wants to be. That's what it wants to be, because that's what it's programmed to be, right? For 200,000 years, that was a really good help to seek out those things. So you were living in an environment, of a couple of thousand years ago that was just natural. You had your urges, you never needed self-discipline. Now you need it all the time, basically. If you want to be successful in this reality and have a great life, just on the basis of not having a body that's pulling you down and making you depressed all the time, or, making enough money to have the whole thing go around and to not feel limited all the time. You have to make choices and you have to follow through on them, even though the body says something else, even though your brain is saying something else. That's the challenge. And don't think it's not there. We start, when we talk about self-discipline, on the upper level. We start on that level, say, okay, you need to develop self-discipline. Why? You need to understand that you are not a self-disciplined creature and that you are the opposite. That's why self-discipline is working against your natural inclinations on a daily basis. How do you do that, right? But don't think it's easy, right? That's a mistake. Oh, I'm self-disciplined. It should be easy, right? It shouldn't be easy. And you will never get there. Sorry. It's always something you deal with. It's always decisions you make. And that's what we need to understand before we move into any higher level of, of working on our self-discipline. Why aren't we just born with the ability to do whatever it is we want to do, right? Because human beings are the only species that can look at some food and say, I really shouldn't eat that. It's not good for me. And then we eat it, right? We can say that as we're eating it. So we want something and then we do the opposite at the same time, right? That's an incredible ability. But it's just how we're built. So we have to work with that instead of imagining that I'm a good person who has self-discipline. There's nothing to do with that. So what's the next level? And I really urge you to go back and watch that video if you haven't already done so, about the foundation, the basic understanding of why we need self-discipline. It's called the number one rule of self-discipline. So once we know that, what is the key to self-discipline? What is really the central message that I could give you of understanding what it is? Because we very often talk about how it looks, right? If I ask you, what is self-discipline, or I ask anybody else, then they'll start talking to me about how it looks. It's when you don't want to do something and you make yourself do it. Okay, how do I make myself do it, right? And nobody can explain that. It doesn't happen, right? Because we don't know. That's why you can't take that skill and give it to somebody else. Just think about it. If you know how to, if you're a carpenter and you know how to make a chair, and I say, how do you make a chair? He will be able to explain to me how to make a chair, step by step, and show you. And then, after a bit of practice, you can make a chair. When it comes to self-discipline, we know how it looks, so I can say, it looks like that. It's like the carpenter says, well, the chair looks like that. And then I can just start practicing, and if I'm lucky enough, and if I work at it long enough, over time, years or months, I might be able to make a chair. It will be so much easier if he can tell me just the core of it, just how am I making this chair, right? So what is self-discipline really? What does it come down to? Instead of, well, it's right? So let's stop explaining how it looks and start looking at what is it really. And what it is this. This is an amazing insight. When this reached my brain after having struggled with self-discipline for so long, everything changed, because now I knew what the game was and I could start playing the game instead of trying to acting like I had discipline. Because if you practice it long enough, if you act like you have it, then eventually you will have it. Bull! It doesn't happen that way, right? It just doesn't. If you act like you can produce the chair, then, fake it until you make it. That's relevant in some other cases, but here it really didn't work for me. So let's look into it. Self-discipline. Let's say you wake up in the morning and you decided to go for a run, right? And then the first thing we want to recognize is that the person the evening before who made that agreement with him or herself is not the same person as the one that wakes up. That's the first understanding. And that's really what self-discipline, because who's trying to discipline who, right? And then, oh, I don't have any self-discipline. Do you mean the person who wakes up? Who has, a body it's not started yet? You have your metabolism is completely different from when you're upbeat and you've been taking that shower or you've been for a run. You're a completely different person. You have a totally different outlook on life, right? Sometimes you can even feel fearful because the person who wakes up has no power. You just left sleep. And you could get a fetus position, right, underneath the covers, and you just go, oh, I can't. The things I'm going to do today, I can't do. Because you're looking at those things that you have to do today from that position of being, oh, and you're naked also, perhaps, right, or in your pajamas. And once you get into the shower and you get some breakfast, you get dressed, right, you smell good again, then suddenly there's a new person there who can deal with life, hopefully. Or if you actually go for that run, your whole metabolism changes, your whole body, the oxygen is just bursting through your veins and everything is just totally changed. And you feel powerful. And suddenly, and you take that shower, you get dressed, and suddenly you can just deal with it all, right? That's a different person. That's a totally different identity. And look at something that we say is constant, a person's values. You have totally different values when you're in bed as when you're dressed and you've gone for a run, right? Totally different person. What values do you have? What's most important in life when you're underneath your covers, when you wake up in the morning? Well, taking care of myself, protecting myself, getting that extra sleep, right? I need that because I'm weak, right? That's your values, But when you get up and they're totally different values. What's most important? Well, it's getting results or helping other people or, creating a great day for my family, whatever it is, right? But those are totally different values. Another example with regards to what if you're angry? That changes your values completely. If you're really angry, right? Suddenly other things are more important than what used to be important. Oh, that thing about the family values are most important, taking care of your family. Well, now it doesn't seem that important since you're screaming and shouting at your wife or your spouse, right? So it changes depending on who we are. Our emotional state, our physical state changes what person we're talking with. So when you, on day one, make an agreement or a deal with yourself and say, I'm going to get up tomorrow and go for a run. You're making that agreement or that deal, that appointment with another person that's you. Right? Is that true? That's why it's hard to follow through on, because the one who's supposed to follow through isn't the same as the one who decides what to do. So you're schizophrenic, basically. So am I. So is everybody. So what do? Well, you start looking at this and you start realizing that that's how it is. Instead of beating yourself up and say, I can never follow through on anything. Who are you talking about? The waking up or the right? What person are you talking about? Because this person can totally follow through every single time. All the way up to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Then you start getting into becoming another person who's tired and worn out and everything. But, it just depends on who you're asking. You can totally follow through depending on who I'm talking about. But, so you know that you're going to be a different person in the morning. And that's the first insight here, or the second insight. And that means that if you're a totally different person, then what could you do to make that person get up, right? Because it's a different person. What if it was a totally different person? It's your sister or your brother, and you had to make that lazy, get out of bed. No swearing here, no profanities. If you had to make him get out of bed, what would you do? What would you do? Would you tell your wife, spouse, and say, tomorrow, when I'm waking up, you have to kick me out of bed. Could I make you do that? Just right out of bed. Or maybe you could set your alarm and then place it in the other room and make it be really loud. Or set a timer on your TV so that is, down in the living room. You wake up and it's all the way down there, right? And you have to stop it because it's going to wake up your kids, whatever. What could you do to make sure could you make another person call you? Could you have your friend call you and say, get out of bed, right? Could you say to your friend, well, if I'm not getting out of bed tomorrow, I owe you $100, right? And then, no way I'm going to pay him $100, right? Could you commit to saying, I'm going to get out of bed at 6 o'clock in the morning or 5 for that matter and work out for a month. If I skip just a day, then I will owe you $100 for each day I skip, And that seems silly, Klaus. It's not silly because you're schizophrenic, right? You have to deal with that lazy person who wakes up in the morning, who doesn't want to do any of these things, even though he knows that she knows some part of the brain that it's good for him, right? So that's an important understanding to deal with reality instead of saying, I should be better than that. You're not. Neither am I. That's just how we're built, right? So if we can work with self-discipline in that way, we can certainly act as if we had it. We'll never have it, but if we know what it is like this, right? Then suddenly we can make it happen. We can have actions that mirror that person with self-discipline, even though we don't have it and nobody has it. We just found a way in order for us to be able to do things consistently that are good for us, but that doesn't feel good in the moment. See you in the next video. The next insight we need to have about self-discipline is that it's all about canceling or changing the evaluation of whether you should do something or not. That's an important insight to have. What is actually going on in your mind when you decide to do something else than what you decided to do, right? You agree that I should get up in the morning and go work out because that's absolutely the best thing I could do for myself. I feel so great afterwards. Okay, but the person who wakes up is another person than who you are when you make that agreement with yourself, right? That's what we've been talking about in the previous videos, and you must go back and watch those to get the full picture of how to really achieve this level of self-discipline, which is we all want, basically, because it is the key to everything we want. We have to act on it, right? We have to act against our natural inclination to do nothing or to do the thing that hurts us, but that feels good in the moment, right? So what is going on? Well, we have that thing. Okay, I need to get up in the morning. I wake up the next day and I don't want to do it. Now, what happens next when that thing in the body that just I just want to snuggle. I don't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to jump out of bed. Are you crazy? That's the worst thing I could do right now. Then an evaluation process happens, and we all know that, don't we? We start thinking about whether I might, wait 5 minutes before I get up. That's because I need the sleep, right? Couldn't sleep last night, so I need to sleep a little bit more. The situation when you wake up and you reevaluate your decision from last day, that's the worst place to do it because you're another person, basically. Like we talked about, the schizophrenia, right? You're a totally different person. And you're going to stay in bed. If you start evaluating, you're going to stay in bed because that's what that person wants, right? Of course. So there's I don't have any self-discipline. Well, what are you talking about? You're talking about making a decision here and then following through on it here. This is one person, this is another. So who is it that doesn't have any self-discipline? It's the guy who wakes up, right? So we need to work with him. And the evaluation process that happens is the one we need to cancel. And just think about the other things we talked about, like placing your alarm clock far away from your bed so you have to get up to make it stop making that racket, or you can, turn on your TV in your living room, or make sure that there's absolutely no way that dude who wakes up tomorrow is going to stay in bed because that'll be too painful. So I'm making the decision. I'm upbeat. I just went for a run. I'm making the decision that I want to feel like this again tomorrow. So I make sure that when I go to bed, that guy that wakes up tomorrow can't not go up. What is that? That is canceling the evaluation process. You wake up, the alarm goes off, and it makes a terrible noise. And you wake up and you say, should I stay in bed or not? Of course I shouldn't. I need to shut that up. And when that is done, another alarm clock rings in the other room, right? And then your wife or spouse kicks you in the butt and kicks you out of bed because you made that deal with her that she should do that, or he should do that, right? So there's no way that you're going to get anything out of evaluating because you change that process completely because the stakes are changed, right? But that's also, say, the $100 or $100 example where you say, I need to get up every single work day of this month, every single day, and if I don't, I'm going to give you $100 if I skip a day. Right? The next day I'm skipping, I give you $200, then $400, then $800, right? Whatever it is. And so the evaluation process when you wake up is changed. You go, even if the alarm rings and you can shut it off right away, you go, should I get up? I have to pay him $100, I'm getting up, right? So you change the whole evaluation process. You make sure that it's too painful to stay in bed. Or you can also lie, right? But that's not an option for many of us because, that's really, and then you you drop out of the whole thing. If that's an option for you, then that won't work in the future. So you might want to call him right away and say, I am up. Are you up? Yeah, I'm up, right? But we can also be very conscious about canceling that process of evaluation in our mind. Just with no other thing. We just know that that is self-discipline. So when you wake up, cancel it, cancel it. But cancel it. Don't do it. Don't go into the evaluation. That's not relevant. And no, be conscious about the fact that the evaluation process is futile. Self-discipline is canceling the evaluation. Think about it. Self-discipline is making a decision here. You have evaluated and made a decision. Over here, you're supposed to do whatever you evaluated upon and made a decision about. Don't start evaluating again. That's the opposite of self-discipline. So shut up, right? With the, that's the whole core of it. What is self-discipline? Is making a decision in time here about what to do here. So what is this decision? It's an evaluation. What should I do? What's best for me? What will give me the most amount of pleasure tomorrow? It's going for a run right when I wake up. Then don't start making new decisions as Mr. Lazy or Mr. Just woke up or Mrs., right? Doesn't make sense. So by knowing that that is self-discipline, you can start really focusing on, isn't it weird that I try to make new decisions? That new decision you try to make when you wake up is the opposite of self-discipline. So don't come to me and say, I don't have any self-discipline. Yes, you do. You can totally make this decision. The thing you just have to avoid re-evaluating your decision. That re-evaluation is how you cop out of self-discipline. Know that. Think about it. Listen to this video again and again and again. And then catch yourself doing it. And just don't evaluate. If you don't evaluate, voila, your body moves. Because that's what you want it to do.